Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Tanya Gomerman, and I have our employment team here with us. We're going to do a very brief overview of the new employment laws that may be helpful for working parents and others taking leave.
Yes, so just recently, the federal government passed two important pieces of legislation that are adding additional leave for people that have COVID or are caring for children with COVID. And this applies for pretty much almost all employees in California, unlike previous FMLA. Under it, the coverage starts April 1st, and it's going to extend out until December 31st, till the end of the year. It will apply to people with companies under 500 employees. And there's two aspects of it. There's the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, and then there's the Emergency Family Leave Expansion Act. And we'll go over each of those. So for under the first leave, the qualifying reasons, there's three of them. Basically, if you have COVID, you're caring for someone with COVID, or you're experiencing other substantially similar conditions. The bottom one isn't quite defined, and there's no definition under the federal regulations yet. I'm not going to go over this yet because there's some potential legal implications regarding who's excluded and what kind of exclusions. But if your employer is trying to say that you're excluded, the only ones that are absolutely explicitly excluded in the Healthcare Act is healthcare workers and emergency responders, and healthcare workers is broadly defined. What you can get for it is, I already went over this in another slide, but basically there's 6 qualifying reasons why you can get this. And what you're entitled to for the leave is you're entitled to 2 weeks of paid leave. And that's, if you're a full-time employee, you get up to 80 hours. If you're a part-time, it's based on your schedule. Here are the 6 qualifying reasons under the leave of why you can get it. State or local quarantine, advised to self-quarantine, experiencing your own COVID symptoms, caring for someone subject to a quarantine, caring for a child, and number 6, which is not yet defined. Under reasons 1 through 3, you're entitled to your full pay. Reasons 4 through 6, you're entitled to 2/3 of your pay during the sick leave. And the next points are just kind of regarding how to calculate the leave. Now, a lot of people are probably going to wonder, well, what if my employer already has leave and sick leave, or what if the state has sick leave? This is in addition to any sick leave policies. And here's the cap for it.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Who pays for this? Is this unemployment, EDD, or is this the employer?
This is employer paid. And here's the cap for 1 through 3. It's capped at $511 a week, or $5,110 in total. Or for reasons 4 through 5, for the 2/3 rate, it's 200. It says per day, but that's actually, I think it is per day. A cap of a total of 2,000. So for the total amount of the 2-week period, it's 2,000 or $5,110. These are the basic acronyms. There's going to be some confusion that's going to be going on because the explanation of whether or not it corresponds with family medical leave that's already in place isn't quite clear, and even defense firms and other people are kind of trying to figure that out. But you can use this leave to care for your children if your school's closed. They can continue the leave for a period of time for the school closure. So you have the first leave, which is the 2 weeks, and then you have a second leave, which is the emergency family and medical leave expansion, which is also passed under the COVID And under that, now this entitles you to 12 weeks of leave. First 2 weeks are not paid for. However, then the remaining 10 weeks are paid for at the 2/3 rate your pay. And I can kind of go over that in more detail, but essentially if you have to, the only one qualifying event for this is you have to care for your children. So if you have children at home, you're entitled to this 12 weeks of leave under the new act.
And is this also paid by the employer?
Also paid for by the employer at 2/3 the employer's regular rate, except the first 2 weeks. Yes, and the employer can't require you to substitute your sick leave. So say you have a bank of sick leave, the employer can't say, well, you need to use that bank up of sick leave first. They can't require you to do that under this.
So the both of the leaves that you've described so far, they're both protected leaves, and they're also both leaves that require the employer to actually compensate the employee while they're on leave. Is that right?
That's correct. And the first leave only requires the employee to be an employee for 1 day. The second leave requires the employee to be an employee for 30 days.
Whereas, and usually with the second, you have to be an employee for a whole year, right?
Under the previous FMLA policies, you had to work 1,200 or so hours. This is not that. Now it's 30 days immediately prior to the leave beginning.
Wow.
And also there's no 50 or more employee requirement, 75-mile radius requirement. There's none of that. It just has to be that the company has 500 or fewer employees. And the only qualifying reason for this is the care for a child. However, they have capped it at $200 per day or $10,000 in total, given that.
What's the reason for fewer than 500 employees? What if the company has more than 500 employees?
I don't know why they decided on that.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is a new qualifying reason for FMLA. So if you've taken FMLA, this is in addition to that. Whether or not it's going to run in concurrent with FMLA is unclear in the statute, but it's a new qualifying reason. This is other leaves available through the state. So you now through the state can take disability leave through the state disability EDD, and these are the amounts of money you can be potentially getting through state disability. For state disability, you get 52 weeks. Under the state disability's website, they're encouraging people, even at home caring for children, to also apply for state disability. Paid family leave, which you're entitled to 6 weeks in California paid family leave. These are the rates you can get, $50 to $1,300 a week. And these are based on how much income you make. And if you go on state disability's website, you can type in your income and it will tell you how much you can make. Unemployment insurance. And then workers' comp, maybe if you get COVID at work, you could be entitled to workers' comp. This is just kind of some more details about the leave. It's effective April 1st. So if you had to go out on leave prior to that, you're not entitled to it. It's only after April 1st. And for the first 30 days from April 1st to May 1st, they're not going to punish employers, but after that, they will start fining employers for not giving this leave to their employees. Here's some just kind of child care leave in California that people are entitled to in addition under the labor code 230.8 that was passed in 2015 by Governor Brown had signed that. You might be able to be entitled to some additional leave, and that could be 13 to 26 weeks. And under that, you could be entitled to unemployment, which is $40 to $450 a week. And then paid family leave, this is through the state as well. what you could be entitled to could be up to $1,300 a week for 6 weeks. And that's it.
So this was a brief presentation. We will try to have a more detailed presentation coming up. I'd like my employment team to introduce themselves, and then we're going to do a few quick question and answer.
Hi, I'm Maria Bourne. I'm the managing employment attorney here.
And my name is Ashley Pellishu, and I'm one of the associate attorneys working on the employment team.
So if you guys want a copy of the presentation slide or have any individual questions, you can email us or call us. We are open and working from home, socially distancing. Ashley's going to read out questions, and Maria will try to answer some of the questions that we got as we're giving this presentation live to our office staff.
Sure. So, Maria, I think a lot of folks at home probably have a lot of questions about all that wonderful information that you just gave us. And some of them that we've gotten so far, I'm just going to kind of start from the top. The first is what if an employer has less than 50 employees? Do they still have to follow these laws, or are there any sort of special rules for smaller employers?
They do still have to follow the laws. They can claim an exemption, and there are about 3 criteria where they can fall with under the exemption. The Federal Department of Labor has asked that they not contact them in asking for these exemptions, but that they just figure it out in the end. So how that is going to fall for employers with 50 or less employees is yet to be determined. But I do see that there's also questions about minimum. There's no minimum. There's no, like, you have to have 5 or more employees. It could be just 1 employee.
So everybody has to follow the rules unless they seek out an exemption, but the government has encouraged employers not to do that. Is that right?
It's not that they would seek an exemption. They could try to claim an exemption after the fact.
I see.
Is my understanding of it. But only employees with 50 or less employees can even attempt to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another question that came up was, so it looks like there was more than one law passed, and maybe you could just kind of briefly touch on the 2 laws that are sort of expanding the rights of people to, or for, employees or former employees to take leave.
So the federal government has passed, under the general umbrella of the Family Protection Act, 2 separate laws. One is a family medical leave, and one is to care for children. So basically, one is to care for yourself in the event that your family have COVID or have been quarantined, or believed to be sick with COVID. And there's 6 reasons under the one set of laws. And then there's a second set of laws. And the only thing that's under the second set of law is I need to care for my kids. They're at home and their school's been shut down. That's it. So two sets. And the first one allows you to 2 weeks of paid leave. And then the second one allows you 12 weeks of leave. And
some of that leave is paid, right?
Yes, the first 2 weeks are not paid. However, the preceding 10 weeks are paid for 2/3 at the 2/3 rate of your pay, up to $10,000.
Wow, that seems like it's pretty comprehensive coverage. I mean, that's a big expansion from the former law. Would you say that's true?
Vastly expansive former law.
Got it. Let's see. I think one other question that came through was something about whether or not how long is this expansion of the law supposed to last? Do we know the answer to that?
Yes, until the end of December of this year.
And have there been any talks about maybe taking these covered expansions and making them last for longer than that? Or is that something that's not just been decided yet?
There's been talks of offering even more protections for employees.
Wow.
Does it include government employees?
It includes government employees as well. And the federal government has some weird exemptions, but it also includes government employees.
So the only exclusion is healthcare workers?
Healthcare workers and first responders.
And is that under both laws?
I believe it's only under the second law, because if you have COVID, I think they probably don't want you at work, but I can look into that.
Interesting.
Well, we'll keep this one short and we'll let everybody know if there is going to be another webinar and when it is. But in the meantime, if you have questions, definitely let us know. We'd be happy to look into any specific questions that people have. And I'm going to put up our contact information one more time. Working from home has its benefits and detriments, but here it is, and hopefully this was helpful. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, big thanks to Maria for putting this all together.
Yes.
Okay.